This here.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Here we go, rock and roll. Cheers.
Cheers.
Second,
Rich.
we made it to our second interview.
And this one's live. From North Bay.
Live. I love live. Let's go.
We're from Rich's. We are right now in Rich's living room, which I wanted to just explain to the people listening that it's quite minimalistic. There's no piece of furniture other than the two chairs we're sitting on. There's a table where he does work. Other than that, there's lots of cushions and blankets where he usually sits and does everything. So
I'll tell you the story of how I ended up fantasizing about being such a minimalist. Is basically at one point, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago, I got into yoga, and my hips were just like everybody else who's always sat in a chair, right? Like completely locked and tight. And the teacher said the best way to unlock your hips is just to sit on the floor a lot more, like they do in other places where you don't have chairs and they don't use chairs. And so I thought, that's how I'm going to get to, instead of, just working really hard at yoga class to open my hips, I just thought I'll just get rid of my furniture, keep it super simple, and just sit on the floor. Yeah. I bought a really nice rug. I bought a Persian rug at the time. I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna have a piece of furniture, it's gonna be a nice rug. And then from that, I realized how kind of fun it is not to have so much stuff to carry around, and I've moved a lot. So basically when I got this space, which is basically 1,000 square feet, I decided to keep it really minimal and empty, and I love it.
I love it too.
Yeah.
We're right here on Lake Nipissing, right? Yeah,
we're sitting on the shores of Lake Nipissing in North Bay, basically as close to, not downtown North Bay, but right on the outside of downtown North Bay, which is one main street, of course. When I say downtown. No, we're pretty much downtown North Bay. Here in Northern Ontario. And you came up. Thanks for coming up, Andrew.
Yeah, no, it's something I've wanted to do for a while, to come visit you. Come to visit me in San Francisco and Toronto when I've been there. And
were you expecting such large snowbanks now that we're into spring?
It's the first day of spring, and there was a snowstorm yesterday, and 8-foot snowbanks. Yeah. So when you called me on Thursday to let me know that you were coming up, and you were in a t-shirt walking in downtown San Francisco, I looked out the window and I thought, I don't know if he knows what he's getting into. But it's kind of cool. I love it. It feels like home.
Thanks for coming. So I actually want to, I loved our last interview in terms of what it allowed me to reflect upon and kind of look back on too as I listened to it. It was the first time I got to kind of listen to, my own explanation of things, which was fascinating, a little experiment. But this time, I want to ask you a few more questions, and I want to just get right into it in terms of what have you been up to? So AndrewParr.com now, you've been doing the podcast. You're like into what, 12 episodes?
Yeah.
Into it? And what are you excited about these days? How's that going?
It's been such an amazing experience just to interview people like you and hear the stories and feel the emotion that comes out of those stories. And I've been able to learn a lot as a person as well, and how I communicate with the people I'm interviewing. And I hope I'm getting better, because you listen to yourself speak and you're just like, I can't believe I actually sound like that. This sucks. So
really, you've had that? You were that hard on yourself?
Yeah. Well, I haven't really ever experienced that, where I've heard myself speak a lot or seen myself speak a lot, and I wanted to be able to communicate really efficiently and effectively with people, and that's part of the whole podcast. It's like I want to get really great information and great insights very quickly, and so I hope it's getting better, especially for the audience.
Well, I can tell you, I've been listening, and it is getting better. But what's fun is to see how much better it does get every show. At the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
It's neat to see because you're progressing pretty fast, especially at first, right? The learning curve is sharp, and it has been. I've learned from listening to it. So I mean, if you touch one person and change their life, I think that's a good day, right? And at the end of the day, congratulations for doing as much as you have. I told you last time you weren't allowed to quit until you did 100 shows, and I'm sticking to that, by the way.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been great to have the feedback that people have given me, even if it's been from people I haven't really spoken to in a long time, or people I don't really know, just saying thank you, I learned a lot from this episode, I had no idea about this or that. So that's been really rewarding, and I want to thank all the listeners for contributing to the show, because that gives me insight.
It fuels you, right? To get the feedback is, I'm sure, I mean, I just started blogging, and I love getting a little bit of feedback because it's connecting.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, that's why we're doing this.
Yes.
We're into this stuff because we're trying to connect with people and share and create a community of like-minded people, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's great.
You said about like-minded people, and I've thought a lot about this because that's what I wanted to be surrounded by for a long time, and what I realized is no one's the same. Mm-hmm. And we are actually experiencing a lot of different things in our lives.
Yeah.
And I actually learn from people that aren't like-minded, like me. So instead of just wanting to
surround yourself with people who are like you.
Yeah, like
you're
me,
kind
that
of
are
curious to go outside the box.
Yeah, and see how those people are living, and see how I can learn from them.
So who are the people you want to be learning from now? Like, do you have people specifically, especially since you started this journey, who you have a lot more respect for, or who you'd like to see how they do it, get a little closer to? Is there anybody like that comes to mind?
I think there's tons of people like that. I actually meet people every day. I'm like, oh, I'd love to get an interview with them. It's actually a great way to start a conversation and be like, hey, you know what, I have a podcast, I'd love to have you on the show. Now that takes time to schedule the interview and do research and things like that. So I have some people coming up that I've spoken to in the last few weeks that I feel like have a lot to bring, and I don't really know that much about them. So that's, I think, the funnest part about reaching out and exploring other people, because what I've learned is their experiences have so much to teach me. Yeah,
that's neat. That's really cool. So it's been, you find it's been a good tool for you to initiate relationships at the end of the day.
And that's the core thing that I want in my life, is really honest relationships.
Yeah.
And supporting relationships.
Sure. So that's with the podcast. How do you find that flows through into your personal life?
Yeah, totally. I mean, because I want to have those relationships with everyone that's really close with me. Yeah. And it's happening, and I definitely am putting the energy towards that. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters for me in this life. It's like, okay, my health. Yeah. So I can be really present with the people that are close to me, and then contributing and serving people. Yeah. And so you mentioned health, and I just want to get back in terms of getting a bit more specific what you mean by health. When you say, I mean, obviously it's the thread that flows through everything you do, from being, from the food stuff you talk about, to the people you talk about, to the movement stuff, to the golf stuff. I mean, really you have this theme of health. How do you define health? Why is that so interesting to you? Can we drill down into that a little bit? Yeah, I think it all started physically. Physically I wanted to perform better. So, I noticed when I was traveling a lot between time zones, I was really tired. I wasn't recovering that well. Yeah. And I noticed I needed to have certain systems. So I needed to do certain things that allowed me to be at my best. So that was like sleeping a certain amount every night, stretching, moving, like a workout type program where I'm doing, pretty specific movements, and then my nutrition. So if I was eating really shitty food, like shitty quality food, then I wouldn't be thinking clearly, my body wouldn't be responding very well, and then I couldn't perform well. So when that transitions in directly like how you make your living, it has a massive impact. So that was where this came from. But what I also realized was, if I wasn't feeling great and didn't have the energy, I wouldn't really want to relate with people that much.
Yeah. So you become more social the healthier you feel?
Yeah.
Are you saying that? Right?
Yeah.
You know, I think I have that same, I've had that same realization, especially lately, because I have a hard time in the winter. Being up north, you know, the daylight is a lot shorter.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think there's science that that points out to, you know, seasonal mood disorders or different things. But I've known in my experience that at this time of year, right at the end of winter, you know, we're all ready for spring to come around and it's still not quite there.
Yeah.
You know, I become antisocial. Now, what I've done to counter that has been to create a studio space where I go and create art. And this kind of thing that you and I are doing are a direct result of a strategy that I put in place, that I've tried to game, you know, to say, okay, I know this is going to happen at the end of winter.
Yeah.
And I set the conditions in place, and now it really did work. Like, I've been having an amazing winter, and it's been because of this space that I created where...
What was going on there?
Well, we're doing music recordings. It's a jam space. It's basically a pre-production space. One of the things I'd like to do is put together a show of all these talented friends I have from around here, who are doing different projects. I just like to bring them together and work on a project, you know, together. And it's happy if you don't move after a while. There we go. Okay, so sorry about that, guys. This is the first time we do this, and we're trying to fix it. But thanks for sticking with us. What I was saying was that the creative space that has happened to help me big time in my getting through this winter has been because of bringing people together. That this magic happens, but it doesn't happen unless you don't plant the seeds in the fall. In my case, or 4 or 5 months, you know, and then to have the patience and the perseverance to continually be there ready, so that when they say, hey, we need this, you're just like, of course, yes. And then it appears so easy when it's, you know, it's happening.
And obviously you thought about this. You're like,
oh, this is my dream. This is and then the foundation, the reason I can be persistent and I know what I want to do is because this is my vision of my lifestyle that I'm creating over, you know, 20 years. Not just you know, it's not just about the project. It's about the kind of people I'm surrounding myself with and the community I'm trying to, you know, be part of here. Yeah, so it's been great.
It's been fun watching you in that community, right? Because I just heard from you about how you lived your life, and I got here on Friday, got a ride with one of your friends who's a fantastic artist herself.
Trisha Foster, the one and only, man.
Yeah, she is incredible. And then we had a birthday dinner for your brother-in-law and your father, and your mother cooked an amazing meal. Your grandma was there, and
so you saw the support network that I have in a glimpse. Like, it's great that I've done it. I've had an amazing, in my opinion, kind of an amazing ride, right? And I would attribute 95% of those possibilities and those opportunities, which I took. But the opportunities present themselves because I have grown up in an environment where I am surrounded with love and loving people who are extremely caring. You get to see just how
it's beautiful
it is, and how lucky, and that's why I wake up grateful every morning. We talked about that, right? Last time we spoke, we talked about morning routines, and I was talking about gratefulness. You know, I really appreciate the family I happen to be part of.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It made me miss my family. I was like, oh man, this is really great. I wish I could be with my family. Although I was implanting myself in your family. Yeah.
And what's cool is because we've known each other a while, my family all feel like they know you a little bit because they've heard about you, and I obviously speak highly of you. So yeah, it was cool that it's cool to have you here to get to see where I am and experience it for a bit.
Well, I love being here. I love your space. It feels very zen, as that was your intent.
And it's a constant thing. Like I was telling my colleague, it took 5 years for me to get this empty. Meaning, like for because it's every day. Every day I try to take a bit of away, right? Instead of adding and cluttering, I just try to And what I love about it is the next morning you wake up or the next day is always a bit better. So it's about creating a momentum. So it's always a little easier. So if an example like cleaning the shower, you get to have a clean shower the next day if you put in the energy, or I don't know how I came up with that example, but whatever you do, you inherit the benefits or the drawbacks, right? So if you hurt yourself, you live, unfortunately you have to live with that the next day. So
that's interesting. You're supporting artists and musicians, and that's one thing I've been really fascinated with, is how boring our culture would be without music, without art, without like, I couldn't even imagine if we were all pursuing business, but business is how people make money to live. And how do you do all these things?
Well, that's exactly the fun in trying. And what I'm trying to do is I'm combining my business. 'Cause I went to business school, and at the end of the day, I always knew that the best way for me to help, an artist, somebody who is truly gifted, would probably be for me to help them, manage the real world, which is, unfortunately, in this capitalist system that we are brought up in and live in right now in reality, you have to understand. And people who are so focused on their art maybe wouldn't be so focused on this and on the financial side. And I'm not a financial wizard, but I have an understanding of it, and I have a real appreciation for the art. So I see myself as being like, if I could be the bridge and a guy in the middle who can help connect and bring together and facilitate projects and big projects, like let's have festivals, like and they're growing and it's happening in other places and in here too. But you need people to do the work of bringing together. And I think that's kind of what I see my sort of lifestyle of this community. That's the role that I want to play and that I see myself playing more and more. So yeah, it's really awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool to see what you've created here. Yeah, thanks for showing me.
Yeah, well, it's fun to have you come down and see it. And now it's like, what do we create next? Because you and I have had a nice journey together in terms of seeing each other come to the point now where we're creating this stuff and putting it out there. Now what we need to do is take it to the next level and really spread our network, get better at the content that we are creating, of course, that you were talking about earlier, but also like, how do we share it better and how do we become better at connecting people to the information, which is really our goal, right? We have very, very similar goals, and that's why we're dabbling in this stuff together. And what I was saying to you earlier, how fun is it to have somebody to do it with? I mean, we can all try to figure this out alone, but it's so much more fun to do it with somebody who's aligned in terms of what they're trying to do, which is, in our case, execute, not like write a business plan, but like do the business plan.
And this is why the podcast has been how it has been, and like started out pretty rough. Like the first interview I did was actually the first interview I've ever done with someone.
And talk about the courage that it took to put that out there. Like, have you found that? Did it take courage, or was it
really
easy for you?
Fucking scary.
Do you still get nervous when you put stuff up?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
almost always.
Yeah?
Yeah, you know what though, if I know the content can help one person that's listening, it's worth it to me.
Yeah.
So no matter, who said, there's always going to be people that disagree with you, and I'm okay with that. That's why the world's so amazing and interesting. And but there's people that connect to these ideas, And if I can help one person,
yeah,
and hopefully it's more than one person, but that's starting that conversation is really fun.
So where do you want to go in the next 6 months? Like, what would be the ideal 6 months in the future? Because we're going to look back on this in 6 months, and we're going to see, you know, because it's fun. That's charting our course, right? We're making our way, and of course we don't know what's going to happen. And I know you have several opportunities coming at you, and which ones you're going to end up taking, and how it's going to work out, nobody knows. But where would you like to be in about 6 months from today? So what are we? We're at the end of March.
Yeah, the end of March. What's
let's say fall.
Yeah, fall.
Yeah. Fall 2015.
Yeah, the things I'm really passionate about are becoming healthy myself in a way to where I can share with other people. So when I'm not feeling well, it's very difficult for me to share. So I'm experimenting with my lifestyle. Sleep, nutrition, exercise. What I'm realizing is there's all these components that contribute to my health, but there are a couple of really big ones.
What are they?
Well, the number one thing is sleep for me. And if I can get a really good sleep, I notice I don't need caffeine, I don't need sugary food, I don't need to stimulate myself nutritionally. So when I sleep well, I wake up really rested. I really don't need any stimulants like that. And that can create a sort of a vicious cycle. Like if I'm tired, lots of coffee, lots of sugary.
Yeah, you stimulate. You're trying to get
the up, right? And
so sleep.
Yeah, sleep's number one, and then probably movement is two.
Yeah.
Well, two would be meditation.
Okay.
Yeah, I've noticed when I can handle anything in my surrounding, you know, like if I get sort of angry or I can not react to the anger. And I can just
bite the hook.
Yeah. I can just feel it, and that's cool. But when I'm reacting, that's when it like fucks up my real life.
Yeah.
So that's that mental clarity, that emotional clarity.
So are you getting better at that? Like, do you notice a difference?
Yeah, for sure. For sure, it's a hard thing to do, but what I just started doing was sitting 1 minute a day.
Okay, so tell me about it. So you started 1 minute a day.
Yeah, I was just like, I need to start meditating. This is really important for me. But 15 minutes just seemed like too much.
Okay, so you started with one, and are you able to do 15 minutes now?
Yeah, I do 15 to 20 minutes.
Oh, great. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, me too. I've been really, really just amazed continually of the benefits in my own experience of sitting still.
Yeah.
For, you know, as long as I can. 20 minutes is nice, 15 minutes is good, an hour. We were talking yesterday at dinner that the magic, you know, there's a little magic in the 60 minutes. 60 minutes.
I haven't done 60 minutes.
Maybe we will today.
Yeah. We can do that. Yeah, I'll try it.
Let's try it. You know what? We're going to come back at you guys after we do a 60-minute sit. Well, look, it's recorded. It's got to happen now. And we're going to let you know how Andrew did on his first 60-minute sit. And I'm going to let you know how I did on like my... Well, I've done quite a few 60 minutes, but not with Andrew.
Okay, before we break for this, I do want to talk about the things that I'm looking to create, manifest, whatever you want to say. So I actually came to Toronto.
All right, can you start that from just a sentence before? So we were, go ahead. Before we go to break, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I'm working with a company in Toronto.
You've got this new project.
Yeah, it's a new project, and it's a meditation hardware, so you wrap it around. I think I spoke about that with Paul Doolin, who's a golf performance coach. But essentially creating a really great tool for all of us to use, but specifically golf performance.
Yeah.
And creating that language. So I'm here to do that, and I have really enjoyed coaching young talented pros and college players, so that's been really fulfilling, and it's actually helped my own game. So now when I go practice, you can't you can't preach something and not do it. So, and when you go to help someone, it's really, you really need to distill the information. So it's like, what is the smallest change that I can introduce that will have the biggest impact? And for some, it's something, it could be something technical. It could just be an awareness thing where people are checking in with themselves before every shot. And that, what I found, has the biggest significance. So it's not really a technical thing, or even how the body moves, which we would see as a mechanical thing.
Yeah.
It's actually what we're feeling before the shot. And so that's been really cool to go through that. So when I'm playing now, I'm testing these things all the time.
So is coaching something you'd like to do more of?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed.
How do people get a hold of you if they want to coach? Like, how do you coach?
Oh.
You could break, like, okay, I'm a golfer, and
you don't even need to be a golfer.
You don't need to be a golfer?
No.
For you to coach me?
Well, it depends what you need.
Okay, so I was thinking you were talking about golf coaching, but you're talking about performance coaching?
Well, yeah, I am talking about golf coaching, but I can also
adapt it to
performance. It's all the
same tricks. It's all the same, and you have your experience as an elite athlete in the golf world. That I guess would be helpful.
I've just practiced that stuff for so long. Yeah. For like 10, 15 years that it's not theory. It's
okay. So how do we do this? Like, how do I get a hold of you? Do I just send you an email?
Yeah, you can just send me an email. How these things have happened recently is just relationships that I've had in the past with people. Word of mouth. Yeah, and people I've known are like, hey, what's going on with your coaching situation? Can I support you in any way? And it usually ends up being that's how it started. But I've had a couple people reach out to me wondering about one specific thing, and then we work together and we create an entire plan to helping them. Yeah, it's been really cool.
Yeah, I think that's something that that would be really interesting for you to pursue. I could see it being very rewarding when you see people. It's like, in a sense, the way I see you teaching one person having to distill or communicate precisely how to help them in their situations, what you're doing at scale with your podcast and what you're doing with your website, because you're essentially trying to teach people, but many people through the one medium, what it is that is helping you so much in terms of your performance, right? So it's basically a communication exercise to help people overcome barriers or perform at their peak performance, right?
Yeah, it's been really fun. It's difficult when you challenge yourself in that. So I want to perform better as well. Yeah. And wondering why I'm, figuring out what I'm really good at, what are my strengths. Yeah. And then what weaknesses I can address. Yeah. And why I, might not break through that barrier. And so I hope to, I want to be playing 10 events in golf. I'm not sure where that looks like, but I'm going to be doing some qualifyings in the spring and summer.
So you got a lot coming up. So you've got this new project involving meditation and brain waves and a development of, is it a startup? Or is
they've been around for a couple of years.
And you're going to help develop that. You're working on some coaching with some people that are really interested. You're looking at doing more of that if that's something that comes. And you're, of course, playing golf, maybe not as heavy as in the previous years, but you're going to be more focused, I imagine, in where you choose to go and what you're choosing to do to make sure that you're in peak performance state when you get there, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've realized I'm trying to do basically like the least amount of work and get the biggest results. So when I go to the course, I'm super focused. When I used to just go 8, 9 hours a day, I didn't really have a plan, or I couldn't measure what I was even getting out of the day. Now I create a plan. What do I want to get out of the day, and certain, I would say, like daily goals or measurements that I'll take and be like, hey, once I do this, I can go. And it may be 20 minutes, it may be 3-4 hours, but I'm really distilling my life to be able to make room for things and people I can really help.
Yeah, that's great. Seems to be a common theme, helping people.
I don't know if the world is made this way on purpose, but it's when you spend so much time on yourself for so long, as I was doing with golf.
Yeah.
I really longed to help people.
Yeah. So you're channeling that into this.
Yeah.
And thanks for doing it, Andrew.
Yeah, dude.
I appreciate it, and I'm sure a lot of people out there appreciate it. And thanks for taking the time to bring us up to speed. We can shake hands anytime for sure, brother. Thanks for coming up north.
Yeah.
I want to see you back up here soon. We're gonna bring friends. We want to start like retreats up here.
We can do.
We got a lot of big ideas, and I'm
Rich ideas.
Rich ideas. Yeah, yeah.
Richard Fortin.
.ca. That's my website, and that's where I'm going to bring you guys up to speed on the projects I'm working on.
Yeah, we're going to run a weekend in the summer, and a 2-day, 3-day weekend. So if you do want to learn how to meditate, how to set up your life so you can get the quality of sleep that you need, how to set up your nutrition, these sorts of aspects.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think is important is just spend time with people who are doing the habits that we ourselves want to do. I mean, I listened to a great podcast last week that was all about habits and how that's really what forms people.
Mm-hmm.
More than anything, more than what we intend or want or say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's the things we do on a habitual basis that really form, our health or who we are. And so to tap into our habits, so sometimes a 2-3 day retreat helps us break certain habits. Maybe it should be longer, but you break certain habits and you get to spend time with people who are in the type of habits you do want to incorporate into your life. And I think that's what's fun about coming together with an intention of helping each other out. So this idea of us getting together and talking about meditation and trying yoga practices and spending time swimming in the lake and dancing around the campfire and reconnecting with nature. Like for me, that's something we don't talk about all the time, or I don't think we've talked about that much, but the way for me to tap into instant joy and happiness is being outside in nature, overwhelmed by its massive, incredible beauty.
I'm completely with you.
Right? And just creating a space, once again, like I did for the studio, for music creation, creating a space for peace and quiet and for us to hear ourselves in a busy world. Right? Yeah, I'm into that. So I'll help you do that anytime.
Yeah, okay.
I got your back.
Well, thanks so much for listening, and please keep leaving your comments. You can send me a message on Facebook or on Twitter, or just email me, andrewdparr@gmail.com, and get a hold of this guy, richardfortin.ca. If you're a musician, if you need help managing your business aspect of it, this guy is really talented.
Yeah, it's particularly insurance. I'm the insurance broker that you want if you're a touring musician. Let me tell you that, because that's my specialty. Anyways, that's my little plug. I love you guys for sticking through this. And I hope to talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Ciao for now.